Friday, October 12th. Gosnell is in theaters. Go see it. We'll talk with Alonzo Rachel, who is one of the stars of the film. Again, Friday, October 12th. Go see Gosnell.
From the highways of America, here's the podcast where we talk politics, a little entertainment, some culture, and this and that, from the road to your ears. This is Trend Chat with your host, Brian Bledsoe.
And welcome to another episode of Trend Chat. I'm your host, Brian Bledsoe, and if you want to connect with us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat. It's all the same name, Trend Chat 24/7. Yep. You know what? I guess I could probably just keep on saying for the next, it's probably going to be a little bit of a short episode, but yeah, because really the focus is on the upcoming movie Gosnell, which will be out on, well, as of this recording, it'll be tomorrow, October 12th. Now, like I said before, and I'm going to keep saying it to everyone that's listening, to go out and check it out. Take some of your friends, especially your pro-abortion, pro-choice friends. They need to see this. And yeah, we really need to get the word out. And I'm seeing from a couple of listings across the country in some places when I'm driving around, I see that it is listed. So that's great. So actually, we are in Missouri today. And so I'm just going to keep on harping on that, really, because I really don't have too much else to really talk about. I mean, I have some things. Well, I mentioned in the last episode that Kanye West was going to be meeting with the president. I thought that was going to be on Wednesday, but that was today, on Thursday, October 11th. And that was a a lot of media was there. He was taking questions, and it was all just it was funny. I saw some of it. I don't even know how long it was. I just couldn't bring myself to listen to the whole thing. But one thing I've noticed is I saw a clip from CNN where they was basically mocking Kanye, because for a number of things, they just calling him, all sorts of names, and which is typical for a lot of these black leftists out here, and there are many, especially in media. So they're all taking their pot shots about Kanye. And you also have a number of people out here wanting to talk about Kanye West, like his mental health. I'm like, oh, can you see how he looks mentally ill? And it's so funny. All of a sudden, these people care about his mental health when, not much has changed about Kanye over the years. Kanye has always been a little eccentric. And that's the word they've been using all this time, is that he's a little eccentric. He's an artist. That's another word that they tend to bring up. He's just an artist. He's a little different. Now all of a sudden that he comes out in support of Trump, all of a sudden, well, he must be just mentally ill. He's really, he's just crazy now. Now all of a sudden, he went from being eccentric to just flat out, crazy. He just basically put a straitjacket on him now. I'm pretty sure if he was out there criticizing Trump and saying the exact same gibberish he's probably saying about whatever, if in the middle of him speaking a bunch of nonsense, and in the middle of all that, he would say something like Trump don't like black people, don't care for black people, like he said about George Bush. If he was saying all that, what he's saying now, and in the middle of that, he was just disparaging Trump and saying, Republicans are racist and all that, and all this talk about his mental health would be out the window. And if someone like myself or any conservative or Republican would have that same thought and say that, well, he looks like, like he's mentally ill, all of a sudden we'll be the racist for making that that point all of a sudden. But they can make that point, because basically what they're trying to say is that to be a black man and support Donald Trump, you must be mentally ill. That's basically how they're making it seem. And that is just asinine. And I mean, it's not frustrating to me. I can see how it could get frustrating, because this is not surprising. This is, this is like every day, basically, for me personally. I can understand if others maybe will get, upset about it, but that's what they do, man. That's what they're going to keep doing. And unfortunately, it works. You have a lot of people who are just afraid to step out and not even be Republican or conservative, just to step out and even to question, these leftist policies in their community. But if they do that, they're going to get all this scorn from people, they're supposedly closest friends. All of a sudden, it's going to turn on them, and they'd rather not, voice that opinion. And if it's not a priority for that person, then why bother? Now I would say go ahead, because it's worth it. But if that person in their mind don't see it as important, or don't see it as a priority to make it known that they're not saying not they are conservative, not saying that they are Republicans, that they just don't agree with a lot of what Democrats are doing, to even just say that, they just rather just keep their mouth shut and just go on through life, which okay, I don't agree with that, but okay, if that's what you want, if that's how you feel, fine. What I would say is that, well, could you at least, when you get to the ballot box, make your voice known? I mean, nobody's in there. It's just you and the ballot. So if you want to do it, then all right, at least that much, I will say to anyone listening, if they are feeling that way. So, but yeah, that all happened there, and and like I said, we're going to talk with Alonzo Rachel. He is one of the stars of Gosnell, and we'll talk with him in a little bit. But before that, let's hear a word from my friends at with the Founder Project.
Hello, Trend Chat listeners. If you like the Founding Project's Civics Education video series, Civics for All Ages, and our educational meme series, we think you will love our new website. Join us at thefoundingproject.com and be a part of the civics movement. The Founding Project is a 501c3 education nonprofit. Please join us today.
And we're back. Yeah, I like that. Oh, yeah. All right, hold on. Turn up a little bit more. Okay. All right. I got to get used to this whole music thing. Next thing I know, I'll play the whole song. But so yeah, I was gonna. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna mention this right quick because I don't want to. I want to make sure I have all the time for our interview with Alonzo Rachel. But I saw a article in USA Today about Jamie Lee Curtis. Apparently, people have been calling her out because her new movie Halloween, which this is like, I don't know, what is this, like the 8th Halloween movie? But with this movie, they're basically making it. If I try to explain it. Yeah, I don't have enough time to explain it all. And plus, I don't even remember it all. But from the way they're I guess, showing this movie in particular. This is basically right after the very first Halloween that was made. So this movie takes place right after that. So it kind of disregards everything that's been made since then, which I guess a number of people probably say that's a good thing. So, but in this movie that comes out later this year, later this month, obviously, I guess it'd be around Halloween. But Jamie Lee Curtis, her character, has guns and is in the trailer. She's, using guns a lot. And so people kind of are calling her out because, being such a gun control advocate that she is, to be in a movie and basically promoting, guns and showing how guns can protect you. It seems a bit hypocritical. So anyway, she came out and said, basically, I would just say she just basically lied and said, well, I fully support the Second Amendment. I mean, that was like one of her statements, but now, when she said, I fully support the Second Amendment, in that, like right behind that, like just for one, you know what the Second Amendment is, right? And so she says this, I fully support the Bill of Rights and fully support the Second Amendment and have absolutely no problem with people owning firearms. Should just stop right there. Because after this part, when I said all of what she said prior about fully supporting the Second Amendment just goes away. So to continue on, if they have been trained, licensed, and background check has been conducted, a pause button has been pushed to give time for that process to take place, and they have to renew their license just like we do with automobiles, which are weapons also. So you don't fully support the Second Amendment because all that dribble you just said right after that, which I can understand some people can actually, support that. And, I guess reasonable people can be for some of this at least. And even some of this to a very limited scope. But by saying that, it becomes a very slippery slope when you start going down, talking about licensing and all of that. But anyway, just to go back to what she said she fully supports the Second Amendment. It's obvious from her next sentence right after that, she doesn't. I mean, she don't. She don't fully support the Second Amendment. So anyway, yeah, that was that was just something that kind of came across just recently when I was I just saw that and I just saw that was at first I saw the headline said I fully support the Second Amendment and I was just I'm like, oh, that's a lie. First thing I thought to myself, I'm like, well, hold on, let me read it. Maybe she might. Let me read it. I don't want to just assume, but yeah. Then when I read it, like, yeah, I was right. That was a lie. So anyway, so we're gonna get to our interview with Alonzo Rachel, and so yeah, we talked about a number of things, not only about Gosnell, but also about what he's doing with his band and also his new book as well. So, and also one thing we talked about is, and kind of like what I'm talking about with this whole thing with Jamie Lee Curtis and her saying she fully supports the Second Amendment. One thing we talked about in our interview was about defining terms, because, okay, you say you fully support the Second Amendment. Jamie Lee Curtis says that. Okay, well, what does the Second Amendment mean? Like, define what the Second Amendment means to you, because obviously from your statement right after saying that, you don't fully support the Second Amendment. So obviously you must have another definition of what the Second Amendment is. And that's something we talked about in the interview as well, because it feels like we can't even have a conversation anymore because our terms are all, just screwed up. Like, what our definition of racism is wildly different depending on who's saying it. Uh, and yeah, whether it's voter suppression or whatever, police brutality or all these words that they have so many different meanings to different people. And I feel like before we even have a discussion about anything, first let's define our terms, because so we can at least know where we're coming from. Even if I don't agree, at least I know, okay, if you're talking about racism and you've added the power aspect to it to say that that's your definition of racism, then at least I understand, even though I don't agree with your with your definition of racism, at least I understand where you're coming from. So I'm like, okay, well, okay, now I know why you're saying that, because you have this false the definition that racism is more than just a state of mind. You've added that one must have power to be considered racist. Basically, as I said before, people that add the power aspect to the definition of racism are basically just trying to absolve minorities from being racist, from having hatred towards other people because of the skin of their color. So, yeah, it just feel like that's basically what those people are trying to make minorities feel better about their hatred by adding the power aspect to the definition. So anyway, yeah, so we talked about that. You'll hear about that in the interview. So without further ado, here we go.
This is Trend Chat.
Hello, this is Trend Chat, and we are very pleased to have someone that I will say, especially in my beginning, and as far as having an understanding and where I stand when it comes to politics. A couple of years ago, my next guest was very influential in that, and we'll talk about some of that, and also a movie coming up, and a book, and a number of other things as well. And who I'm talking about? I'm talking about Alonzo Rachel. And so, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. So, as far as your introduction, there are a number of things I could say. So, one thing in particular that stands out, it says conservative evangelist. So, I'm pretty interested in that in particular. So, kind of tell us what that, what does that mean?
Oh, man. Well, okay. So, under that, when you say evangelist, an evangelist is a messenger or somebody who advocates for something. So, I don't want to limit myself because most people know my work as a commentator. They see my videos back in the day, my brick wall rants or the rants that I did, like, back in my old Kung Fu studio, that I would do those, and then eventually on PJTV and stuff like that with Zonation. And but the point is like to get the message out there, basically the more particularly the Christian conservative message, and using different avenues to do that, whether it be my commentaries or whether through music or whether through film or TV or teleplays and stuff like that. Just different ways to get the message out there. So I use a conservative evangelist as kind of like a catch-all phrase for all the things that I'm attempting to do to get works out there.
I guess one part that really highlights that is the new book that you have now called Solid Right Cross. So yeah. So tell us about that.
Well, I'm more of a into making videos than I am into writing books. But the reason why I wrote the book was because there's been so much shadow banning. My videos can hardly get out there. I mean, they've really put the bite down on my videos, like really, really bad. So I'm like, well, I gotta try to do something to keep try to keep the work out there. So I ended up making a book, and the book itself is basically my Christian conservative manifesto, and it really takes on being able to promote Christian conservatism in the culture. With a lot of conservatives, their victory for them is official in a political representation. They want to be represented politically, and I'm like, yeah, that's all good and everything, but your political representation is only as solid as your cultural representation. It's like, where do you think these people get the power from? They get the power from us. So you got to be able to represent the culture. You got to be able to sell it. We're the free market people, right? Well, it's the ones who are taking the most advantage of the free market are liberals. They take the most advantage to promote their ideas that are caustic to our republic, but they take full advantage of it, and we're not. So, to be able to promote and to be able to sell our ideas and stuff like that, that's something that conservatives like really need to tap into, as opposed to saying that, hey, we've got our victory, we've got a Republican in office. Like, okay, well, we're governed by our consent, and a lot of people out there ain't consenting to conservative governance. So we kind of need to work on that in the culture.
When you mentioned as far as being banned, so you talking about on YouTube or like Twitter and all that?
All of it, man. Twitter, Google, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube's been doing it to me for years. They didn't, it's like people, a lot of folks tell me it's like a new thing. It's like, man, I've been warning folks about this for years. Like, say, for instance, like with Google, even Google has me masked out. Like, if you type in any conservative commentator, you know how they put in cross references. Like, if you search this person, you'll always, or these other people are associated with them, my name never comes up.
Wow. I mean, I know, especially like from the videos that you've done in the past, right? And then like seeing the ones that you're doing now. And I mean, yeah, you can, I guess you can kind of see the difference, but I mean, we hear this story a lot, from a lot of people, and it really is something that really needs to be addressed. And it's kind of difficult, honestly, because we're talking about like private, companies, but at the same time, it's basically kind of like a public square, but in the sense it's not. So it makes it real difficult as far as trying to navigate in, how to fight this really. I mean, on principles at least, because I mean, it's easy for us to say like, oh, well, you need to do this and not, ban us. But then on the flip side, and realize that we're talking about private companies, and then so it kind of, I don't know. At least for me, that's how I feel. I don't know how you feel about that.
I absolutely agree. It's like, because people be telling me, why don't you file a lawsuit or something like that, or join Prager, and sue them. And I'm like, if I had the time and if I had the money and the resources and all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't waste my time and money on trying to sue them. I'd be putting that money into investing into a viable competitor. One. And two, it's just like you said, man, it's their toy, man. They can use it however they want to. And so I'm not the guy who says that, hey, you have to give me fair treatment and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I have no contractual agreement with them. I didn't pay them any money where they have to offer me this service. It's not a public utility. So I'm not entitled to this, this prime service that they're supposed to give me. What I'm calling out, one, is the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's hypocritical, for one. And it is discrimination. Because if they're going to silence people, but is it discrimination? Like I said, I'm keeping this to hypocrisy. It's not illegal for them to do what they're doing, because, like I said, I have no contractual agreement with them. So if they want to go ahead and discriminate against who uses their platform, that's their business to do so.
Yeah. Now, as far as the book, I mean, what are the details you have as far as, because one thing, in first when we mentioned about being, a conservative evangelist, and also in this particular book, and also with what you're doing now with the videos you're doing, because you do something, I guess you said kind of like a Bible study called Bible Tripping. And so, and so I was just wondering as far as the details with the videos and as far as the book, I mean, is there anything more as far as, those connections?
Well, with the Bible Tripping, I read it. It's a read through the Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. It's not about, so much, giving sermons or anything like that, of like what I'm feeling for the day. It's like, let nobody accuse us of not reading the Word. People out there, people be calling themselves Christians and stuff like that, and haven't even read the Bible. Some people are fair in saying that. It's like, you Christians, you don't even read your Bible. And I'm like, well, let's not be those Christians. Let's read it. Let's get together. Let's fellowship, and let's read. And the Word of God is mind blowing, man. You put it together, and when the Lord starts speaking, it's like, wow. You really see the picture of Christ just coming in 3D, man. And with all this, fake news that's going on out there, it's like, people need it's like, cause there's a lot of fake news out there. People need a dose of real news. People need a dose of good news. And it's like this, if there's one thing that ain't going to lie to you, it's going to be the Word of God. We may get the Word of God wrong. We may get it wrong, but the Word of God itself is pure and it's right.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's read it. Let's read that good news. Let's read that true, pure, good news. So, that's one of the reasons why I do that, because, man, we really need it. In the book, is basically, my conservative manifesto, and it's built, conservatism itself, it's built American conservatism. People like, they twist up conservatism, and the whole ideas of conservatism and liberalism is all twisted up because people try to view it through the lens of what was conservatism in other countries and stuff like that. Say, for instance, when people think about Nazism, well, they say, well, they were conservative. It's like, well, it depends on what you're conservative with. Yeah, the Nazis were conservative with their doctrine. Their doctrine was a doctrine of oppression. If you're conservative with that doctrine, then you're going to get oppression. But American conservatism, when our conservatism is built on the Judeo-Christian foundation. When you're conservative with that, you get liberty, because that's what the Bible is, the truth that that sets you free. So when you're conservative with this document of liberty, that's what you get. But if you're liberal with a document of liberty, you're going to miss what it says. You're going to try to interpret it differently. You're going to try to insert your own ideas or subtract. And when you're liberal with that document, you will get oppression and murder. So it's like our perspectives of conservatism are totally different. Our foundation is different here. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to explain in this book, to erase, to set the record straight on these stigmas and these preconceived notions about conservative and liberal concerning America.
Yeah, I know for me, even if I get in these, I guess, discussions or basically arguments, a lot of times I don't even get into the weeds as far as talking or want to bring up stats about this and that, because 9 times out of 10, it don't even get that far. Because normally when I start a discussion, the first thing I want to ask the other person, let's get a definition of terms for one, because unfortunately, terms mean anything these days. So if you want to bring up any issue, I need to know what you mean by that first, because nowadays, racism can mean basically someone didn't say hi to me today or something in someone's mind these days. And so I first I want to ask that. And unfortunately now, even doing that gets nowhere, because what you mean is it doesn't mean this or it doesn't mean that. And I just want to get the basic idea, the basis of what we're going to talk about first before we even start discussing. So, so yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah. But
definitely did it. Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like because right now, I mean, we're in that age again. I mean, and this stuff ain't new. This communication, it's not anything new, man. But we're here again, and it's ramping up to where anything can identify as anything else. Just like you said, it's like, let's define our terms here. But you're right, we can't, because people right now, they're trying to redefine everything. Yeah. It's like if a man wants to identify as a woman, if you can take a person who can assume that they can identify as something else, they can take words and assume that they mean something else. We're trying to redefine marriage. We're trying to redefine sex. We're trying to redefine the meaning of what somebody else says. I mean, man, we're doing this all day. And yes, it does make it very difficult to communicate. And, just like I said about the Bible trips, it's like, look, man, our ideas, just like us, man, dust in the wind. That's why the word of God says, hey, my word remains forever. Everything else will pass away. My word remains forever. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, let's get that forever word out there. This is the truth right here. We may get it wrong, but the word itself is right. And we just need to keep speaking it. Speak truth. Speak truth.
Hello, this is Brian Bledsoe, host of Trend Chat, also contributor at politichicks.com. Here to tell you about the new book called Politichicks, A Clarion Call to Political Activism, with over 300 pages from contributors like myself, talking about topics such as education, social issues, healthcare, the Second Amendment, and of course, activism. I encourage you all to check it out at politichicks.com, and is also available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Commentary as subtle as a sledgehammer. This is Trend Chat with your host, Brian Bledsoe.
So, there's another thing in particular we definitely want to get into is the upcoming movie, Gosnell. Now, first tell us, who you play in the movie.
My character is Detective Stark, and I'm police partner to Detective Woods, portrayed by Dean Cain.
So, now, for people that don't know about the the background of this movie. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let you, given that you're in the movie, I'll let you tell everyone, if they're not familiar as far as what this is all about.
The movie is concerning Gosnell, who's an abortion facilitator, and Dean Cain is basically like the police chief of a time travel syndicate, and I'm a police that is dispatched back into the future to find Gosnell and whoop his behind before he starts on his murderous campaign of abortion.
Oh wow! Yeah,
Let me back up. Gosnell is basically a evil, wicked person that took the liberty of calling himself a doctor. Basically, the guy is he represents what the so-called pro-choice movement leads to. It's like nobody can get around this. Nobody can deny it. They can backpedal. They can try to cop out all they want. This is what this evil, selfish mindset leads to. And Gosnell, and like I said, I don't like to call him a doctor. He's just simply an abortion facilitator. What he was doing was he was performing abortions, goes beyond late term. These babies were born, right? And I don't even like the term born alive. I don't even like that because the baby is alive even when the baby's in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no difference for me. But, whether it was prenatal or postnatal, he had no reservations about killing him. So, when the baby, but in this case, what made it, really stick, I guess, is murder, I guess, in the eyes of the court system and society, was that the baby was, outside of the womb. And what he would do is that he would flip this kid over. I mean, you want to talk about a bully, man. I mean, if we don't like bullying, it's like, why is it okay that this person can have a baby born, flip that baby over and stab it in the back of the head and cut its spine? That's what this monster was doing. It's like, think about that, man. That's. I mean, you want to talk about cold-blooded. It's like, this kid and his staff just stand there and watch. So unfortunately, some of them, ended up with a conscience and just, they couldn't stomach it anymore. But basically that's what he was doing, and and he would drug, his patients to make them induce labor, sometimes, and the thing is that he gave his staff permission to do this. They weren't licensed to do this, and they would, over medicate. He had patients that were over medicated, and they would die. So you have manslaughter, which I guess ended up accounting as murder. And, this guy was getting away with it for years. Nobody would say anything. He was doing this for not just years, but decades. Nobody would say anything because they didn't want to, step on any toes concerning abortion. And his clinic, man, it was a slaughterhouse. I mean, it was literally bags all over the place. And when I say bags, these were body bags everywhere. You go in and you're just stepping over death. Just bags of babies.
Yeah.
So this guy's a monster.
And as far as people trying to turn a blind eye to it, it happens in this case as far as what happens during the trial of Kermit Gosnell, but also in the sense of making this movie as well, because then there's been a lot of obstacles on as far as even the movie coming out. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, man. The liberal narrative, they don't want this. They don't want this out there. Getting distribution was difficult. Hollywood didn't want to touch it. And even the judge, I guess there was a judge that's portrayed in the movie. He didn't like the way that he or she or whichever didn't like the portrayal, so held it up in court, like sued. To keep the movie from coming out. So that's been, I guess, in litigation for, almost definitely over a year, maybe almost 2 years.
Yeah. And also in the story itself about this, you come across a scene, especially in the trailer, where, the media is absent, where they basically just, don't want to cover it all because they don't want people to see, where this quote unquote pro-choice argument, where it basically, leads to and what it causes. So you had that going on as well. So you constantly have where the left just trying to throw as many obstacles as possible to keep keep people from seeing the horrific nature or when it comes to abortion.
Right, right. And that's one of the things that we're hoping that folks, get out of the movie is, as far as the media is concerned, the media is a tool it's a tool of the liberal elite, and the Democrat Party to condition what people believe. They want to control the perspective and the tone of what America believes. And the media has projected onto the people that, hey, this isn't important. This isn't important for you to know. Yeah. And, and we want you to keep your opinions about it. We want you to see abortion as empowering. We want you to see it as it's your sovereign choice to be able to do. And under the guise of empowerment, it's basically a form of population control. And so, and they've used, the media to just say, hey, this ain't important for you to know.
Yep. So the movie comes out October 12th, correct?
Correcto.
So, everyone listening, definitely, go out and see it. It should be in theaters. Look it up. If you just don't, automatically see it like everything else, so yeah, so you might have to search for it, but I'm pretty sure it'll be near you somewhere. And so, I definitely look forward to catching it. And now another thing I want to mention, as far as, like I mentioned in the beginning, you have a lot going on. And another thing I want to mention is about 20-pound sledge. So just want to, ask you about, what's coming up and how's things going so far.
20-pound sledge, man. That is my project of the Grizzly Gospel, man. It's like it's basically a hard rock gospel band. We have, oh my goodness, man, we haven't played a live show in almost 2 years. Personnel, staff changes. It's been a hard search to find a new singer, and I've been working with somebody, but I haven't really made an announcement yet. But we're almost there, man. We've almost got all the vocal tracks before I make the announcement that who I've been working with. And so hopefully, God willing, this album will drop this year. Music is a powerful tool, man. It's one of those things that conservatives really should not overlook. Music, is such a strong tool to promote ideas, and the left has been using it to the hilt. Conservatives, it's something that they really, really need to get into supporting. Whether it doesn't matter what genre it is, whether it's rap or rock, or it doesn't matter. It can't be just country, man. Country people are the only patriotic people, dang it. It's like support them. It's like, we poo-poo like, rap music. I'm not a big rap music fan, mainly because of the content. I don't mind the genre itself. The content of it has been, totally, inundated with a bunch of garbage. Yeah. And, but at the same time, look at the influence it's had. It has so much influence, and a lot of times that influence is negative. So it's like, but music is powerful that way. So it's like, well, why don't we use that to our advantage? And that's one of the things that 20-pound sledge is about. All
right. Now, so before we let you go, there is one other thing that I want to at least ask one question about. Another thing I saw on there, it said martial artist. So now, are you like a black belt? Is it Taekwondo? I don't know anything about martial arts, but I just wanted to ask, what are you like? Is it like black belt something?
I've been blessed to be able to obtain a couple. When I was younger, like a preteen or seven, I think I started in Taekwondo. And then, my pursuits, grew, and I wanted to, do a deeper exploration, and I ended up tapping into a system called Hapsaudo Kung Fu. And what it means is military hand, dark hand way. It's called dark hand way because its connotation also means the robbing method. And what it meant was that it's a curriculum built on being versed in different systems. So it was a very exploratory curriculum, and it was of different systems of Chinese boxing or Shaolin, northern and southern Shaolin boxing. So it was really getting down to like the root and historical exploration, how Shaolin came about, from fighting monks in India or fighting clergymen in India and stuff like that. How all that came to develop into this, kind of central core system that was so influential of other martial arts. And so, in that curriculum, there was, internals, externals, punches, kicks, locks, throws, a lot of military application and police application, not so much sport. But so, it's a pretty deep study, and something I was blessed to be able to be led to.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. When I saw it, it really piqued my interest. So I just wanted to ask you about that. But I know you got to go, and so I just want to say first, like I mentioned in the beginning, the videos that that you are doing, and the ones you did, especially some years ago, especially for me, were very influential for, as far as me learning where I stand, and and understanding as far as the history of the Democrat Party and other things. Like there was one in particular called Explaining Black Loyalty to Democrats. That's something that I remember watching, and I remember sharing it with other people and stuff like that. And I just want to say I appreciate all you've been doing, and just want to let you know, from someone that saw it myself, and that it really helped me to, basically that I'm interviewing you right now. So I appreciate it.
Wow. Hey, well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you, and thank you, man, for adding your voice to the promotion of truth, man. Thank you.
And again, everyone, go out to the movies October 12th. See Gosnell and support this as much as possible. Definitely need to get as much support and let as many people know about this. So, Alfonso, appreciate it, and we'll hope to talk to you again.
All right, man. Blessings and Godspeed.
Yeah, but thanks to Alfonso for joining us. And I did not ask where to reach him on social media. And, I'm normally good at that, but if you want to reach out to Alfonso on social media, on Instagram, it is Alonzo Rachel 9. So ALFONZORACHEL 9. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm doing that right off the top of my head. I'm reading it now, and also that's on Instagram, and on Twitter, it is Zoe what the F. So yeah, I don't have to spell that. Zoe, Z-O, what the F. It's just how I'm saying it. So so like I said, appreciate Alfonso coming on, and also on Facebook, if you just look up Alonzo Rachel, you should find him. And if you search that name. So here we are at the end again. And again, as I said in the beginning, go out, see Gosnell, and this weekend, and if it's past this weekend when you're hearing this, go see it still. And yeah, really need to support this and have people to really understand and what was going on and about this trial, and see and know about what really is going on in these murder mills that they call abortion clinics. So I appreciate everyone listening, and like I said before, it's not a feel good movie, but it's an important movie to be seen. So I know there's other things out right now, but make an effort to see this, and to get your friends, and I guess you could say your enemies as well, if you can, to get them to watch this movie. So like I said, I appreciate Alfonso coming on, and we may not have just one show next week. Been doing a lot of work, so until next week, we'll chat with you later.